Brazil has always been the home of football legends, starting from Pelé, Rivaldo, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Neymar, Zico, Jalminha, the list goes on. But I know many of you are still wondering, who is the second greatest Brazilian of all time? Well, I'm not talking about the Gen Z names. If you're Gen Z and never got the chance to watch him play live, then this video is perfect for you. Because today, we're talking about Romario, the Lord of Goals, the King of the Night, and in my eyes, the second greatest Brazilian footballer ever, Romario. The party animal who scored 1,000 goals. So listen carefully. Football has given us artists, warriors, geniuses, and saints. But every once in a while, a player arrives who breaks every rule, bends every tradition, and still walks away as a legend. That man was Romario, the little striker who partied harder than he trained, who smiled when others sweated, and who scored goals as if he was born with the net tied to his boots. He didn't just play football. He lived it like a nightclub, loud, wild, unashamed, and unforgettable. While others woke up at dawn to train, Romario stumbled home from the disco, only to show up later that day and score a hat-trick. He wasn't built like an athlete, he wasn't disciplined like a soldier, and yet, he was lethal like an assassin. They called him lazy, they called him arrogant, but Romario called himself one thing, the best striker in the world. And if you look at his record, over 1,000 goals, a World Cup trophy, and a career defined by defiance, you might realize he wasn't just playing football. He was rewriting its rules. Romario scored more goals than Messi and Ronaldo combined, and he did it while living life like a party, not a prison. He dragged Brazil to glory in 1994 all by himself, carrying the nation on his little shoulders with a swagger that could silence a stadium. Inside the box, he was deadlier than Cristiano ever was, because for Romario, one touch was enough, and the ball was already in the net. He scored 1,000 goals without diets, without gyms, without modern science, just raw instinct, street football, and the confidence of a man who knew he was born for this. Even Barcelona feared Romario more than they feared Real Madrid, because when the little man was on the pitch, every defender knew one mistake and it was over. He wasted half his talent and he was still unstoppable. Imagine that. Half focused, half serious, half committed, and still twice as good as everyone else. Since Romario, Brazil never truly found another striker like him. Not Ronaldo, not Adriano, not Neymar. No one carried that same ready all night and still be great, walking straight from the nightclub into the stadium and leaving with a hat trick. Romario's arrogance wasn't ego, it was the truth spoken out loud. Because when you're that good, telling the world you're the best is just honesty. The boy from Rio. He was born on January 29, 1966, in a poor neighborhood of Rio de Janeiro, where the streets were not playgrounds, they were battlegrounds. Romário de Souza Faria was tiny, fragile, and mocked for his size, but his feet carried magic that even hunger couldn't silence. Every kick on those dusty pitches was a warning to the world. A star was coming, and the world wasn't ready. The little giant emerges from Vasco da Gama's youth academy. Romario burst out like lightning, short, stocky, but impossible to stop. At just 21, he was firing goals that made defenders dizzy, turning weakness into a weapon and size into invisibility. By 1985, Vasco knew they had unearthed not just a striker, but a predator. The European dream. In 1988, PSV Eindhoven signed him for just $4.5 million, a bargain that would soon look like daylight robbery. In the Netherlands, Romario scored 165 goals in 5 seasons, winning 3 Eredivisie titles and breaking Ajax hearts over and over. He wasn't a foreigner adapting to Europe. He was the nightclub king of Eindhoven by night, and the assassin of Dutch football by day. Barcelona's wildest gamble. Then came 1993. Barcelona paid around $6 million to bring him to the Camp Nou, and Spanish football was never the same again. Under Johan Cruyff's dream team, Romario became unstoppable, curling finishes into the corner of the net, humiliating defenders with a single step and making the Camp Nou roar. His Champions League nights were pure theater, nutmegging Peter Schmeichel at Old Trafford, then tearing Manchester United apart 4-0 in front of 114,000 fans. A night their captain Steve Bruce still calls the hardest of his life. And when 1994 arrived, Romario stood on top of the world. FIFA crowned him World Player of the Year, the best on earth, the deadliest alive. But brilliance always came with chaos. In La Liga, he landed a left hook on Diego Simeone, serving a 5-game suspension that summed up his fiery, reckless nature. By January 1995, his love affair with Barcelona ended in flames. After clashing with Cruyff, Romario walked away, leaving behind both glory and controversy in equal measure. And well, the king of the world. 1994, USA World Cup. Brazil were desperate. Cup in 24 years. Man, the little man from Rio didn't just win it, he owned it, and FIFA crowned him the best player of the tournament. The Ballon d'Or. By the end of 1994, Romario stood on top of the football world. The Ballon d'Or, the title of FIFA World Player of the Year, was his, and the respect of billions was sealed. He wasn't disciplined like Pelé, he wasn't polite like Messi, but he was the king, crowned in gold, because greatness doesn't ask for permission. The party animal. But here's where Romario broke every rule. He didn't care about diets, he didn't care about rules. He partied all night in Rio's clubs and still showed up scoring hat-tricks in the afternoon. For him, football was joy, and joy meant women, music, nightlife, and goals. Lots of goals. The drifter from Barcelona, he moved to Flamengo, then to Valencia, then back to Vasco. Each transfer not about money, but about freedom. Clubs paid millions for him, hoping to he destroyed records, became top scorer of the Brasileiro multiple times, and kept proving that his legs were sharper than his discipline. The heartbreak. 7, alongside a young Ronaldo Nazario, he formed one of the deadliest duos the game had ever seen. They called it the Rorow attack. 2 predators, 2 killers, 2 strikers who made defenders pray for mercy. At the Copa America in Bolivia, they destroyed everything in their path. Together, they scored 8 goals, carrying Brazil to the trophy. Later that year, in the Confederations Cup final, they humiliated Australia 6-0, both Romario and Ronaldo scoring hat-tricks. Romario walked away with 7 goals in the tournament, Ronaldo with 4. In 1997 alone, the two combined for 34 goals, 19 from Romario, 15 from Ronaldo. They were unstoppable, unforgettable, untouchable, and the world prepared for them to headline the 1998 World Cup in France, until fate had other plans. Absence and the last game. And then came one of the strangest moments in Romario's legendary journey. A news conference that reporters later called bizarre. Rumors were everywhere. Whispers that senior players, men who shared the dressing room with him, had gone to coach Luis Felipe Scolari, begging him not to bring back the veteran striker. Imagine that. The same Romario, who once carried Brazil on his shoulders in 1994, now being quietly pushed aside. But Scolari stood firm, unmoved, his tone cold and technical. He said Romario didn't fit the tactical needs anymore. Behind that, he never forgot how Romario had withdrawn from the Copa America when Brazil embarrassingly lost to Honduras. Scolari kept that wound close, and with it, shut the door, and so Romario stayed home. And here's the irony of football, my friend. Without him, Brazil still went on to conquer the world in 2002, lifting their 5th World Cup with Ronaldo and Rivaldo dancing in the spotlight. But one can't help but wonder, what if? What if the little genius had been there one last time, just to whisper magic into a game? That question will never leave the echoes of history. Yet Romario was never the kind to fade quietly. On the 27th of April, 2005, São Paulo rose to its feet to honor him. His last dance with the Brazil national team wasn't a silent goodbye, it was a celebration. Wearing the captain's armband, the man who once tormented defenses around the globe scored again. His final goal in the famous yellow jersey, as Brazil defeated Guatemala 3-0. The crowd roared, not because of the scoreline, but because Romario was Romario, even at the end. That day, he reminded everyone that legends don't retire, they just pass on their flame. And still, football was not his only playground. As the years moved forward, Romario found joy in the sand, where the ocean kissed his feet and the ball floated in the air. Foot volley and beach football became his escape, his new stadium under the sun. To him, it wasn't just about scoring goals anymore, it was about living the beautiful game in every form, every grain of sand, every wave that crashed behind him. The 1,000 goals. May 20th, 2007. Vasco da Gama, a penalty against Sport Recife, a packed stadium, a nation holding its breath, and then Romario struck. Goal number 1,000. The match stopped for over 20 minutes as fans poured onto the pitch, crying, celebrating, worshipping the little genius who had joined Pelé, Puskás, Friedenreich, and Bender as one of the rare immortals to hit four figures. Brazilian and international press exploded with headlines. Romario had done the impossible. But with Romario, there was always controversy. FIFA congratulated him, but officially recognized only 929 goals, removing the ones scored in youth football, friendlies, and testimonial matches. The RSSSF gave him 968 in 1,188 games. Romario didn't care. For him, every goal counted, on the streets, in the youth teams, in the friendlies. Each one was part of his story. After the landmark strike, Vasco honored him with a statue outside São Januário, a monument to the man who had made football his playground. In 2008, he even released a DVD with 900 of his greatest goals, as if to remind the doubters. You can debate the numbers, but you can never deny the genius. And so Romario retired, not as the most disciplined, not as the most serious, but as the most unapologetically brilliant striker to ever live. The man who partied harder than anyone and still scored 1,000 goals.